Welcome everybody. Time for Isolines Page 4. And the difficulty is now going to start to ramp up. So let's think about what to do with this bad boy right here. If we were doing what we've been doing, which is to draw an isoline for every one number, we'd be in deep trouble here very quickly. And that's what these sentences at the top are supposed to be. Sometimes with isolines, drawing each line would give us like nightmares. I usually see something silly like that there. It would be terrible. So in this case, we use the idea of an interval where we only draw some of the lines, which kind of implies that the other ones are in there, but we're only going to draw some spread evenly going by whatever the named interval is. Yes, you wrote interval twice. I'm sorry. So whatever we decide the interval is, you'll go by that and then just go like we're going to go by tens on this map below here. If you were to start at 67 and do isolines with a value of 1 all the way up to 135, how many would you need? You need a calculator, which I should have been ready for, eh? Unless you're good at arithmetic in your head, which has never been my strong suit. 135 minus 67. We would need to draw, that doesn't seem right, 98 lines. Does that seem right? 68 lines. That sounds a little better. So if you, like me, do not feel like drawing 68 separate lines on this map with none of them touching or crossing at any points, then we're going to want to go by an interval, go by tens, in which case we'll draw like 6 or 7 of them and we'll be done. In other words, instead of starting at 67, then a 68, then a 69, then a 70, then a 71, we'll do tens. We'll do a 70, an 80, a 90, a 100, and so on. And we'll cut our work, and we will, we'll celebrate it. We'll be happy. I'm going blue. All right. So you can't draw any that are like lower or higher than what we think we can see. So if you see a 67 here and you say, hey, I want to start at 60, like maybe there is a 60 here, but maybe there isn't. And unless I can see, unless the data shows us that it's there, we're not going to assume it's there. Again, write less, be more correct. So the first value that I can see that's divisible by 10, because our interval's tens, is 70. Now, there are no values of 70 on this, but there are, if you know how to count, because you know that you can't go from 67 to 75 without crossing by the number 70, right? So let's do it. Your 70 ISO line, we'll do that, and that's it. So we went, yes, I know that there's a 67. I'm sorry, I know that there's a 70 between 67 and 74. I also know there's a 70 between 67 and 75 and between 67 and 84. Or I know that my 70 keeps all the higher numbers on one side and all the lower numbers on the other side. We are, and I know you're not going to love this, we are going to have to get in the habit of starting to label our ISO lines. I can hear the groans, the future groans, as I'm taping this on a Sunday. All right, next we go up by the interval. The interval's 10. So we go to my 80 ISO line. So I'm going to draw this line so that everything lower is on one side, everything higher is on the other side. It goes in between any numbers where an 80 would live. And that's it. Now, people are always tempted to like loop it around and get it close to the 81. Keep it simple. Use less ink. Be more right. I know numbering in Cami is not fun. So thanks for your efforts there. 90. All right, so what do I do here? Well, I know that there's at least one between 84 and 97. Like sometimes I'll give myself some dots as hints. Between 80s and 90s here, so maybe it's like coming up here. You don't have to do these dots. And yes, again, like I said in the last video, you should be doing this. Whatever works for you. If you got to pause, if you want to do it one number at a time, if you want to kind of go along with me, whatever works. Now, 94 is higher. So it's got to be on that side. And I'm thinking right about there. Uh-oh, we got some issues over here we got to deal with. I'm going to label this 90. And we're good. All right. I should have, because I've done this back for years, but I didn't realize over here that we had a 75, which means that my 80 line, and again, this is going to be the one where, obviously we're not usually doing this over YouTube. I'm walking around the classroom as you're doing it, and I'm like cracking people's skulls that go ahead, because people that go ahead make the same mistakes every year, and people that stay with me end up doing pretty well with this stuff. But people that go ahead will try to make this 80 like go all the way around, and it's a nightmare. It doesn't work. So we went off the map there. Okay. I'll come back on the map over here. Okay. Job done. It's that easy. 80. All right, the 90 we did. It's going to go off the map, and ooh, there's a 90 exactly. So if you're really catching into Isolines, you should know what we got to do with that. And some 80s over here. So obviously our 90 is going to come off, come back on, and if it clicks in your head, there's a 90. So my line that is 90 better go through that. I'm over here, keeping higher towards one side and lower towards the other side. There we go. Do I have to label this, Mr. F, because it already goes through the 90? It's kind of like once you get labeling, just keep labeling. I know that this is a pain. But hey, we love our rules here in Regentsville, New York. Okay, now pretend you're me having to grade these things, because they can be dizzying, because there's so many like slightly different ways that people can do things. So here's what I look for when I get one of these that I got to grade, which I'm telling you because I think it's simultaneously an easy way for you to check your work. If you take the value 80 and the value 90, every number in between that, if we're just in like my son's math class, all the numbers in between 80 and 90 better be in the 80s, right? If I'm saying that this line represents 80 and this line represents 90, as I look through here, they better all be in the 80s or something's wrong. And then it comes over here, they better all be in the 80s or something's wrong. And it looks like I did it right. So you can use the space in between the lines as the answer just as much as the lines themselves. So let's make a mistake on purpose. So there's my 90. I'll go back through that one so I can be lazy. And I'm looking good. Okay. Now, yes, I did that wrong. If you're paying attention, you know that. But let's say I was going fast, I wasn't paying attention, blah, blah, blah. Now when I'm checking my work, I'm making sure I did it right before I submit, because I want all my points. Okay, I got 80s. Uh-oh, I got 80s and 90s together. So that doesn't work. I haven't decided yet how far we're gonna go into some of the I've got some really hard ones that we do sometimes. Because again, sometimes people enjoy this. I know that may sound crazy, but compared to some of the stuff we do, it can be relaxing. Drawing lines is no big deal. I've got a couple that are wicked hard. Usually we do it with colored pencils by coloring in the numbers and then separating out the colors. That's a method too, but maybe we'll, I don't know. We'll see how we go with that. All right, enough babbling. The 100s. 100s are easy because you're going to separate out essentially 2-digit numbers from 3-digit numbers. If you're less than 100, you're a 2-digit number. If you're greater than 100, you're a 3-digit number. I'm even going to go off the map just a tiny little bit right there. It barely makes a difference, but why not? I think I'll do the same thing down here. Could I have connected those two? Probably, but I'm going to use less ink. So 100. I guess that means I got to label a line twice. There goes my less ink. Excellent. All right, 110. 115's higher. I don't know if I want to go on or off the map right there, so I'm going to just go to the other side and start to see what happens here. 120s are higher, 122s are higher. This is always the thing over here. Depending on how you drew that 100 line, now that you also see that the 110 has to go around it, you've either got to be very slow and deliberate, or if you didn't give yourself space, do a little bit of erasing and start it over again. It's no big deal. We got time. We're not in a hurry. And as I get close over here, I'm thinking I'm just going to connect these two right here and call it good. 110. All right. 120. So higher than 120. 130 certainly higher, and then all these numbers in the 120s. So 120 or around the 130. Through here, 120s are higher. 122 is higher. 120. Now, if you're starting to say, man, these are small and frustrating, I agree. A, relax. B, think what the interval did for us. If you had 10 lines in between this one, 9 more lines in between this one and this one, I mean, it'd be impossible. You'd be pulling your hair out, right? 130. All you got to do is go around the 135 and back. Boom. Map done. What do you think? That's a 3. Yes, it is. All right. So keeping up with the theme of intervals, I'm going to start you on this one. Then at a couple of points, I'm going to say press pause and try the rest on your own. Okay. People always get a little bit flustered with negatives, but don't let that ruin your Christmas. It's not too bad. The instructions actually are down here. Isoline interval is 5. So start with -10. Then 5 higher than -10 is -5. 5 higher than that is 0. And then 5, 10, 15, and so on. This one you go up to the 20 at the highest. So do I have any numbers? I don't want to shrink too much here, but I'd like to have the whole map on the screen if possible. Do I have any numbers that are lower than -10? And yes, I do. There's one number, and that number is -11 right there. So negative, no, I missed it. So -10 or around the -11 and back. Label. Good. 5 higher than -10 is -5, so we're going to do the -5 line. And this gets a little bit sloppy. Not sloppy. It's going to be neat, but it gets a little bit confusing. Where are my other -5s? In between these and these, there's -5. -3, though, is higher. I know negatives, they're not fun. So there's part of my -5 line. I'm gonna have to come back on and off the map a little bit here. -5. Down here, I've got a 0. I've got a -7. There's -5 between those two. -5. Again, I do want you doing this along with me. If you got to pause the video sometimes, that's all right. -5. That'll do that. 0. 0 is like one of the really like visually very easy ones, because if it's negative, it's lower. If it's positive, it's higher. So just separate out negatives and positives, and it's like a freebie. You can like almost zoom out in your head. And I am going to go off and come back on. You probably could have connected those if you want to. Uh-oh. A little squirrely there. Cammy. All right. Here's what I'm going to do. I want to set you guys starting. I want you to finish this. But what I'm going to do is say the 5s are a little tough on this one. I'm dropping you off at kind of a difficult point. So here's this technique. I talked about it up on page 1, that where I'm like, holy cow, look at all these numbers. I don't know what the heck is going on. I can at least see a 5, a 5, a 5. So I'm going to draw a part of my isoline. It's not the whole thing. It's also terrible. Let's try it again. Five, 5, 5. Also not so great, but better. That's part of my isoline. Here's a couple of 5s next to each other. There's part of my isoline. I don't see any other 5s, but I've got the beginnings of my shape on what the 5s are going to look like. So do that. Then what I want you to do is press pause and try to do the rest all the way up to 20. 20 is the highest you got to go on this one. All right. So press pause. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pause. All right. Welcome back. Let's do it. In fact, I'm going to be picky here and I'm going to erase that. I just don't like it. So you had this section before you paused, and hopefully you did the rest. So 5, 5, 5. I know there's a 5 up there between 2 and 8, so I'm going to go right off the map right there. Down here, I know I got to connect onto these 5s, but I got these other numbers here. I got an 8, a 9, a 4, and a 6. Well, 8 and 9 are higher. 4 is lower. 6 is higher. So I'm thinking kind of like that. Through. Done. There you go. 5. That's a 5 right there. Okay, me. Chromebooks. All right, 10. 10, 10. Got that for sure. 10, 10 over here, and there's an 11. I'm kind of sensing that the higher numbers are towards the middle of this thing, so I'm going to go around the 11 that way. All right, 10 again, like the 0, the negative positive, or on the other one, the 100 with the 2-digit, 3-digit. 10s separate single digit from double digit numbers, so it's like you can. I don't know. I find those easier. Keep all the double digit numbers together. Keep all the single digit numbers together. I'm going off the map right there. Calling that a 10. Excellent. 15. If you listened to my instructions and you paused it and you tried this, I bet you got a little frustrated with that 16 right there. If so, that's not abnormal. That's the thing every year. Uh-oh, this is going to get tight over here. I might even have to redo some lines here. Oh, baby. So I made it, just barely. 5s are hard to draw, huh? Let's think about that whole idea of how close together lines are indicating a rapid change. I mean, if you got to go from 4 to 16, yeah, you got to pass by the 5, the 10, and the 15. So there's your rapid change or high gradients. If this were a topographic map, that would be a steep part of the hill over here, whereas over here would be a more gentle part of the hill. If it were pressures, these numbers don't mean anything in the world of pressure, but if there were pressures, that would mean that the wind is going to blow quickly from there to there because it's got to correct for that balance. Nature likes to correct for that balance as quickly as it can. High gradient. It's going to be the same lesson over and over. I think all we got left is the 20. And all that's going to be, there are no 20s printed on the map. There's no data point that's 20, but there's a 21. And all those other numbers are lower than it. 21 is higher. So we throw ourselves a 20 on here, and I think we're done with another page. Just about, why is it interval? Why is it easier to use interval sometimes? You could say a lot of things. But I'd say when it really, like brass tacks, when it comes down to it, we draw way less lines. And we like doing less work, don't we? High school students. All right. Excellent. Good job. What was that? Page 4? Take a break. Take a stretch. Plenty more to come. We'll catch you in a few minutes.